Okay, so I'm gonna go to bed and I'm gonna give you part one of the difference between mutants and Inhumans. Alright? Now, as far as I know, because again, everything that I knew has been completely retconned. So we're gonna go with everything I knew before the retconning of 2010. It might have been 2008, but between 2008 and 2010, there was a big fucking makeover at Marvel, and everything that I knew went gone. So, here's how mutants work. I can explain mutants a lot better than I can explain Inhumans because the only exposure that I have to Inhumans were in the Fantastic Four in the form of elementals like Crystal, Medusa, what the fuck was his name? I can't think of the guy who can't talk, but he's the leader. And then there were quite a few more, but most of the Inhumans had elemental powers, and people often mistake elementals for Inhumans, but the elementals are not Inhumans and they're not mutants, but they're like hybrids. So, but in all its glory, all that's just been retconned. So we're going to go with what I know. All right. So mutants. Here's how I know mutants work. All right. Mutants are born with an XXX gene. If you're a female, you have three X's, or either it's two X's and a Y. And if you're a male, one of y'all got three X's. All right. Because whichever one, I get the gender thing all mixed up, and it's not because I'm gay or straight. It's just because I just can't remember that shit. Men, I think, are XY or either XX, and women are either XY or XX. But if you are a mutant, there's an extra X, which is the X factor that gives you your superpowers. However, your superpowers do not develop until you hit puberty. So if you are a woman, the day you get your period, you get your superpowers. If you are a man, I guess your first wet dream. I don't really know how to explain male puberty to people. I know I've gone through it, but I've had plenty of wet dreams even as an adult. So go figure. So as a female though, when you get your period, you get your powers. That's pretty much how only way I can explain it. You get your period between the ages of 12 and 13. So you become a mutant between 12 and 13. Kitty Pryde was 14 when she started phasing through walls. She might have been 13, but when she came to the X-Men Mansion, she was 14. All right, that much I can confirm. Because Professor Xavier's a jerk. In Colossus, he got his powers when he was like 12 or 13, possibly 15, because he destroyed a um one of those corn big spinny things because it was about to run over Ileana. And his brother Mikhail, who also is a mutant, but his mutant armor only covers like his arms and his chest. It doesn't really, and I think it's possibly his legs. I've never seen him in shorts, but he doesn't have the whole full organic steel like his little brother. Mikhail is the fourth. God damn it! He's the first child in the Rasputin line to have mutant powers, and then Peter, and then Ileana. So all their family is mutants, and mutant genes, if you go by the TV, is a product of the father. However, if you go by the comic, it's a product of both parents being mutants for some mutants, with the exception of one mutant for sure, who's an Omega level mutant. His parents were not mutants, and that would be Franklin Richards. So he's above and beyond the mutants in the X-Men. Now, Omega level mutants is something that we're not going to tap into in this video because that's a whole lot of complication to explore. So Legion and Franklin Richards are out. I should also mention that Xavier is probably going to be out, and Jean Grey should probably be out because those are four of the Omega level mutants. Psylocke would eventually become Omega level mutant when she switched from her European body to her Asian body. All right, don't ask; it's really a fucked up situation. Anyway, that being said, mutants are born with their powers. They get their powers from birth, but the powers do not develop inside them until they hit puberty, and most of the time it has to be an emotional reaction to trigger their mutant powers. And then along came Xavier to teach them how to control their emotions to control their powers. Alright? That's the long and short of that. Now, let's dig into Inhumans. Because before the retcon, Inhumans were not so much born with their powers like mutants, but born with their powers just like mutants. I know that was confusing as hell. Now, let me explain that. The reason why I said that is because for Inhumans, most of the Inhumans were descendants of ancient people who were experimented on by the Kree or by some other alien entity, which is why the Kree can blend in with the humans. Because if the Kree come to Earth, some of them can change their skin color, like the Skrulls, but they can't change their shape like the Skrulls. All right. Now that's neither here nor there. Just want to give that as a fact before the retconning. Then the Inhumans, who are descendants of ancient humans, who were the byproducts of experiments gone caca, again, before the retconning, the Inhumans are born with their powers just like mutants, but they get their powers at various stages. And this is important because unlike the mutants, their powers don't manifest until they get hit by a Terrigen mist, and I'm probably not saying that right, but the Terrigen mist, if you are not an Inhuman, if you're like a normal human, I can't remember what it does to you, but if you're like a mutant, it's supposed to kill you. I don't know why they wrote that in that way, but they did it. But if you are a Inhuman, you get covered with mist and a cocoon appears over you. When the cocoon shatters, if you survive, you become an Inhuman. And just like in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., where they made Daisy Johnson, aka Skye, an Inhuman, it works like that. They've done it in a cartoon. You have to watch a couple of those Avenger cartoons and you'll see it happen because that's how the guy with the flames got in there. So in the comic, they also did it, but it was done a little bit differently before the retconning. So the Inhumans, just like mutants, are also born with their powers. But the Inhumans have to be encased in a cocoon, which is triggered by the Terrigen mist, which, if they survive the cocoon and all the other shit, because I don't remember how long it takes in the comic for them to, like, bust out. Now, if you watch the more recent cartoon when they did with Kamala Khan, she didn't get into a cocoon. She just got hit by the Terrigen mist and woke up and could stretch her ass all over the place. But for the old school, before the retconning, they got put into cocoons. Crystal had mentioned it in one of the Fantastic Four. For those who don't know who Crystal is, she's the chick with the circle in her hair that's black. She has brown hair or blonde hair, and it goes all the way around one black strip with a big circle in the back. And then it's brown and brown all the way to her shoulders. So she did explain that to Johnny Storm. She actually explained the difference between humans and mutants and Lockjaw. Because Lockjaw is also an Inhuman, but he's always been a dog, which is another difference maker as far as I know. Unless this has been retcon, there have been no mutant dogs. And the only remote thing that could be resembled a mutant that passes as a pet is Lockheed, and that's a dragon of Kitty Pryde. But Lockjaw has always been an Inhuman. He's always been a dog, and he's like their Nightcrawler or their Lila Chinley. And I forgot to cut on those damn lights. But anyway, I'm about done anyway. The whole thing was that the Inhumans are basically a different grade of mutant. And their grade of mutant activates through, for the retconning, cocoons, where the mutants, they're born with their shit. No. They are straight born with their shit. And they can manifest their powers between the ages of 12 to 21. But once they have their powers, with maybe 2 exceptions that I can recall, again, before the retconning, where their powers will not work. Okay, 3. So the first exception is if they're tired and they're just emotionally drained and they haven't eaten or sleeping, the human body will shut down. Mutants, at their essence, they're still humans. So if you're just in a straight war with mutants and you're fighting mutants, and you don't rest, then your body doesn't recharge. And if your body doesn't recharge, your powers ain't gonna work. Alright? Now, Comrade Hodge found a way to get rid of the mutant virus and the mutant powers in general. And he did that twice. Once in Extinction Agenda, and he did it with some other mutants in Fall of the Mutants, which is how when he got to Extinction Agenda, he figured out how to do it right. For somehow or another, Storm became the catalyst and could touch everybody like a messiah and get everybody their mutant powers back. So if you haven't read Fall of the Mutants and Extinction Agenda, then you have no idea what I'm talking about. However, before the retconning, the main way that their powers would work is if they were just tired. Until Comrade Hodge came along and started like writing all that shit. Now, Inhumans, on the other hand, as far as I know, and I could be wrong, and it may have been retconned, Inhumans could never lose their powers. Unless, just like the mutants, they were tired and just haven't had any sleep. Now, with the leader of the Inhumans not even able to speak outside of telepathy, and hand signals, he could ever use his powers. Because if he whispered, he could crack the planet Earth. So that made it really hard for Black Bolt, that's his damn name, to exist. Alright? Now, when you think about that shit, you're like, okay. So when all this is going on, this would spawn the birth of Omega level mutants. So I'm going to end this with Omega level mutants, even though I said I was going to leave them off the table. I'm going to end this with Omega level mutants. So I'm going to explain this about Omega level mutants really, really quick. When you hit Omega level, there may be a higher level. If there was, it probably got retconned, but we're going to say that there's not. But Omega level was supposed to be the highest level that you can have. However, Franklin Richards is more than just an Omega level mutant, so he might be an Ultra level mutant, which does not exist as far as I know, because after Omega level mutants, they were done. Now, before the retconning, the Omega level mutants that were Omega level mutants would basically almost be immortal. And Cable's whole trip through time was to go back and find an Omega level mutant to take out Apocalypse. But what he found was Sam Guthrie. Now, Sam Guthrie, before they totally retconned the High Lord thing, Sam Guthrie was supposed to be a High Lord. He died and came back, and he was supposed to be immortal. And Cable's job was to teach him how to use his blast field as a weapon and not just a shield around him, henceforth the name Cannonball. Because eventually he learned how to use his blast field and shoot it out of his hands. Before the retcon, before X-Force got stupid, and started changing off people and killing off people and bringing some people back and putting people in relationships that didn't need to happen and taking Cannonball out of the X-Men out of the X-Force and making them a full-time X-Men, it just got all kinds of crazy, which I started saying, okay, I'm not going to read this shit anymore. And then the writer's strike happened. But before the retconning and all that shit, Cable went back in time to get a High Lord named Sam Guthrie, because he knew that only Sam Guthrie had what it takes to take out not just Apocalypse, but Apocalypse 2. It's kind of the same reason why Shatterstar went through his little alternate universe sliding thing to go find Cable to help him save his mother and his father from Mojo 2, because Mojo 2 used Longshot to betray Mojo 1, and then he betrayed Longshot. Alright? So there's a whole thing in the 90s and early 2000s with all that shit that goes on. But before the retconning, the High Lords and the Omega level mutants was as high as you could get. However, to be a High Lord, you'd have to be a mutant first, and if you were an O-level Mega Mutant, or Omega level mutant, to be one of them, you'd have to be as strong as Legion or Franklin Richards. And at the time that the Omega level mutants were being discovered, no one was more powerful than Franklin Richards, not even Legion. Now, what makes Legion stand right behind Franklin Richards is that Legion is schizophrenic, and he has 5 personalities, which is why his name is Legion, and each one of his powers suits a personality, and each one of his personalities shoots a power, which is why he was one of the first, if not the worst, Omega level mutant, because he's schizoid and he's unpredictable, where Franklin Richards is next to God-like with his Omega level mutant powers, and no one is technically more powerful than him except for the one above all. Now, we're not going to go too deep into that because I just started discovering the one above all. Again, before the retconning, Franklin Richards was like the in-all of all that was in the 616 until the retconning and until Scarlet Witch totally destroyed the 616. Outside of that, the difference between mutants in Inhumans is very slim. Again, Inhumans, they have their powers, but they don't develop until they get hit by the Terrigen Mist. Mutants are born and their powers do not manifest until they hit puberty. Again, if you're a woman, your first period, you get your mutant powers, which is not fair because men begin puberty late. Some men don't begin puberty till like about 15. So, not fair. But, hey, so for all those people who are bitching about getting their periods when they're women, just think if you're an X-Men, you got your shit at 12 or 13. The first time you started bleeding down below, you got superpowers to go. I'm James Williams, and I'm closing out on that. This is Kung Fu Havoc 2, and that be that.